of luck and opportunity kind of knocking on my door. In 1977, Dancing Queen by ABBA. Yeah? Jimmy Carter, those years, okay? Just as I was completing my service in the Marines, and Deborah and I were about to have our first baby. Well, of course, mostly Deborah. and here's the baby right here, Jeremy. Anyway, the colonel I worked for, he hosted a party at his house that included a few of his civilian friends. One of his guests was a broker. And we were having small talk around the dinner table, and he was asking me, what are you going to do after you're out of the service? I don't know, you know. He said, why don't you come talk to us? And that's how I happened into the brokerage business. I went to work for B.C. Ziegler and Company. They're primarily a bond company, and we offered bonds to our investors almost every week, a new bond offering we were offering to them. And although our bonds had really, really good interest rates, we were paying investors 14%, 15% on a bond investment. Pretty good rate, huh? People were reluctant to title. Excuse me, Ted fell down. Whoops. Anyway, those 14% bonds, 15% bonds were hard for people to commit to because, you know what? Money market accounts paid about the same at that time. You might remember that back then. Boy, can you imagine borrowing for a house in those days? Whew. Anyway, one of my friends had moved away from that company and gone into financial planning with Connecticut General. And he called me and said, hey, they have an opportunity in financial planning up in San Francisco. And Deborah and I really wanted to get back to Northern California. We had grown up in Anderson and Redding area, so we wanted to do that. And about 1980, that was Pink Floyd, by the way, doing Another Brick in the Wall in 1980. And later that year, Ronald Reagan was elected, you might remember. And that was just before baby number 2 came along. That's this handsome man here, Matthew. I started working as part of a financial planning team, helping business owners arrange business continuity and personal estate plans all up and down the San Joaquin Valley. Now, many of you in this room have been investors with me for a long time. With us today, though, is a couple I first met in those very, very early years. Bob and Jan Wicks from Twain Harte. Bob and Jan used to be in Ceres when I first met them, but they bought a place up in Twain Harte and retired up there in the foothills. Well, Bob is quite a business guy. He's a brilliant guy when it comes to business, and he knows more than most people I've ever met about hard work. And he knows a bit about squeezing a nickel, that kind of thing. And so we've shared more time together, I think, than anybody else in this room. And he's kind of my big brother or uncle or something. You got to be something by now, Bob. And you know, when we start conversations these days, what do we say to each other? We say something like, hey, how you doing? You know what Bob says back to me? Better than perfect. How's that for an attitude about life? You know? Bob and Jan, please stand up for a second here. Please.